Hi, Agent Wayne Samson. This is Kip Lacron again. I hope you enjoyed my 20-minute long message. I hope you listened to it all. I hope you enjoyed your weekend. I've continued to spend yet another weekend, as I have for many weekends over the past several years, particularly the past almost 3 years now, getting zapped, getting electrocuted, getting burned, getting frozen, getting pushed and shoved. Getting crushed, getting jabbed, having my breath, having my breathing suppressed, or having my breathing controlled somewhat, having my bladder controlled, having my bathroom, having my the times that I go to the bathroom controlled by these horrible people who say such horrible things that I can't even repeat them to you, or care not to repeat them to you, because they're so dehumanizing and demoralizing, and are things that no other human being would say to another human being in their entire life. Certainly not for multiple years, nonstop. I hope you have spoken to the girls at Red River Family Practice. I believe that that's already, I hope and think that that's already been done. If not, if you're really called away on another matter and you aren't just covering and trying not to throw these guys off, or try not to tip these guys off, it's a mistake either way. I will obviously have to put up with this for another day or another week or another month, but these motherfuckers need to get out of my life. And you need to help me with that. You promised that you would help me. You promised me you would look into this. You have continued to break your promises to me. You did not give me a VoiceToSkull recorder. You probably didn't even look into it. You have either been lying to me or keeping hidden from me, or truly not following up with these witnesses and with these other victims and suspects, and it's causing me to suffer. We met almost 2 months ago, over a month and a half ago. You're supposed to have done this like the following week. I don't care what other assignments you're on. Again, I am not making an understatement when I tell you this is the most important thing that you will ever be a part of in your entire life. And you're fucking it up. And if I act too crazy or too manic or too panicked, or if I start screaming, or if I start crying, or if I start stressing the importance of the situation with my voice more, then I come across as mentally ill, or I come across as someone who's high, or someone who's bipolar, or suffering some sort of neurological or paranoid condition that's in their head one way or the other, or drug-induced psychoses or something like that. I am sober and sane, always have been, and I hate the fact that I even have to say that. Even if I was both of those things, even if I was a crazy drug addict, those people deserve to get calls back, and those people deserve to get their safety put up there as the number one top priority. You are not putting my well-being or my dog's well-being or my safety or my dog's safety as the number one top priority. That has to be the number one top priority. I need to get the fuck out of here. I don't know if I can wait for my disability. I don't even know if it's going to be approved. I've already got 900 pages of hospital documentation, and my doctor multiple times, even answering a very lengthy questionnaire saying that I'm fully disabled and that this is going to be a chronic condition, even though it's man-made. And they still are waiting for more documentation from another doctor. So they're obviously trying to deny it, and they probably will. They denied it before. And you think that just seeing the first doctor's documentation that says fully disabled, chronic or whatever, or I believe patient is disabled, that I would immediately get my disability. You would think that the additional 900 pages of documentation, and that since my appeal, the additional hospitalizations and the forced stay at the mental place for a week or like 7 or 10 days, you would think that would get my disability approved. However, it delays it and it causes a follow-up to be required. I don't know if I can wait that long. Obviously, I will have to, but you cannot take advantage of the fact that I've survived this long and I will survive however much longer I need to, that should not be taken advantage of because it is causing irreparable damage to my relationships with my family, my former family, my former friends, and former colleagues, some of whom I will never speak to ever again because of this. And whatever you're doing on this case or not doing on this case, it is not the right thing. This is extremely, extremely important. I am not making this up. Once again, let me remind you, within a month of hearing these voices, first of all, immediately when I started hearing the voices, when I told a cop that I had a warrant for my arrest for a DWI, which again APD gave me, and I wasn't DWI, I blew a 0.0, and I still had to plead to it so I wouldn't have to stay in jail several more months. So that was the beginning. That wasn't even the beginning of APD fucking with me or not helping me. That was just the first actively fuck over that they did to me. When I had a warrant out for my arrest for missing the court date, when I was waiting for my house to foreclose and get my money from that, they heard that I had a warrant out for my arrest. When I was talking to the police officer who had recovered my Xbox or found that my Xbox had been pawned, because I didn't want to get arrested with my cat and dog at the hotel room. They were like, "Ooh, we're gonna fuck with you now because you have a warrant out for your arrest and you won't be able to call the cops," which I did anyway and still got arrested because they scared me so much. That was within like a week of hearing the voices, I believe, a week or two, or within a day or two, I can't remember. And then the following month at the next hotel I was at, hey, the guy in 301 has your stolen phone and hacked your Google account. And they also did a little Simon Says with him in the parking lot right in front of me. Again, total stranger. I didn't hang out with him. There's no way I could have even suspected that he had my phone. And the email address that was put in as my recovery email address was linked to his Facebook and his 2 Facebook and 1 or 2 Google Plus profiles. And the phone was located either right outside of his room or in his room or the room above it. But obviously it was in his room. So once again, and that's just one of countless examples of like them reading ahead in the book, even when the text is on the other side of the page, them reading license plates and signs off, describing events that are happening outside my eye shot and outside of my ear shot. This is not in my head, and there are hundreds or thousands of other victims, many of whom don't know that they're victims or don't know that what they suffered was caused by a human being that had this suite of technologies. Nothing that I'm describing can be rationalized without coming up with like 3 or 4 mental illnesses, one of which many psychiatrists don't even believe is a real illness, dissociative identity disorder or multiple personality disorder. I did not come down with schizophrenia and multiple personality disorder and psychoses, which my camera picks up, although sometimes not very well, or sometimes it's not seen when people look at it in bad lighting conditions, or too good of lighting conditions, I guess, or not the appropriate lighting conditions. That does not happen and paranoid ideations. I was never a paranoid person without a history of mental illness. Schizophrenia happens from 15 to 25, as does most mental illnesses aside from mood disorders and trauma-induced conditions. I did not come down with fibromyalgia, which again, my friend Tom, who went through some similar crap that I did, he just never heard the voices, but he got the pain, and he went through like a crazy period of his life as well. He threw his phone into a pool, I threw my phone into traffic. He was lying down on benches all of a sudden, very tired and very moody. I was very moody and lying down on benches. He went through a period where he was fighting with his spouse in a very severe way, not physically, but in an extreme way that mirrored a lot of what I went through with my ex-fiance. And these people have already confessed to it, but they confessed to a lot of things that they didn't do. I believe that they or other people in the same network have caused people to hurt themselves or hurt other people, possibly to the point of suicide and or murder. That is extremely important. I'm not suicidal, but again, I don't know what's going to happen if I have to keep suffering through this for another week or another month or another year. You yourself seem to be understanding of that and compassionate to a certain degree, to where you were like, if it's getting to that point, and I already told you it's at that point like every single day, to call you, and that you would come down here or you would send a team over here. But again, just sending an FBI guy to come over and talk to me face to face isn't going to help anything. It's not hard to catch these people. They're certainly using drones. Just fly some fucking drones over my fucking house and look for them, and get special camera equipment, and or just get me the fuck out of here. Like, I don't understand how you cannot believe what I'm going through. Direct energy weapons, there's multiple types of those. They can cause every single one of my physical symptoms. And voice-to-skull technology, which is used by magicians and mentalists and other people that shouldn't have those devices for decades. The technology was invented 60 years ago, or at least the buzzing and clicks, and over 50 years ago, voice-to-skull was invented. So, and it's very well documented. And if you click on that link in my YouTube descriptions that I always send out to you, where it says Voice-to-Skull, you'll see a page that the Army removed that was documented by Wired Magazine and other people, that Voice-to-Skull is a real thing. So those two things can explain everything, with the exception of the projection things. But again, I think that's used primarily for camouflage. And again, it's used also to fuck with people and to make them seem more crazy. I'm not simply pointing my camera at a wall and then, in a paranoid delusional state of mind, looking at the camera noise, which is way more camera noise than would ever be produced by my phone's camera. I have one of the top of the line camera phones, and there's no way it produces that much noise. All that squiggling and wiggling and all that bullshit. Like, look at those videos that I sent to you, the Maureen Kina one with the Green Devil poster. Once again, and there's another one in that document that shows like my face morphing. There's multiple ones showing my face morphing. Again, I saw that with my unaided eyes. I did not just point it in there and be like, oh, let's look and let's see what like latency in the camera is, or camera noise, and let's make out bullshit in it and enhance it in certain ways where I'm adding artifacts to it. All I'm doing is like changing the brightness and contrast, or changing the hue to something that will make it show up more clearly. If I just leave them all dark images, you wouldn't be able to see anything with that. Sometimes they are dark. Sometimes I have to modify, adjust those things, but I'm not adding anything to it. I'm not modifying the video. Again, I'm sorry for leaving you another message, but I'm not sorry in the fact of like, we could have avoided this if you had helped me when I saw you, if you had helped me within a week or two of me seeing you. Again, you are letting me be tortured and terrorized every single day. I cannot express how dehumanizing and demoralizing it is to have a group of bullies say, and even bullies wouldn't say these things that these people are saying, but they are very good at what they do. They know how to hit the body in certain ways to cause certain, not just pain or discomfort, but they can hit the body in certain ways that mimics the feeling that accompanies sometimes when you feel a certain emotion, and that in turn makes you feel that emotion to a certain degree, or to the entire degree. Like, they can shock you in a way that makes you feel panicked. They can also shock you in a way that makes you feel extremely drained of energy, where you can't even get out of bed. And even when you do get out of bed, it feels like you're walking through a fog. It feels like you have this heavy electromagnetic blanket on you that's just like where you're like a zombie. They can also hit you in a way that makes you feel extremely depressed, or depressed isn't even the word. It's like a physical sensation of hopelessness. And again, I'm not suicidal, but this could make anybody suicidal, and I don't believe in an afterlife. So I don't want to simply not exist anymore, and I certainly don't want to end my life during this bullshit. I certainly don't want this to be the end of my life. And this is something that people would kill over. Not just kill themselves over. This is something that the criminals would kill over, guaranteed. I think the only reason why they haven't is because I've caused so much of a stink about this that would hope maybe arouse suspicion. Although with the APD, with their total ignoring me on this, and the sheriff's department ignoring this, and quite frankly, with you ignoring me on this, I wonder if even if they did that, if anyone would even follow up on that, or if it would be investigated at all. This is something that people would cover up for, guaranteed. And so it makes me extremely nervous, I guess, or it makes me extremely worried, which they try to make me even more worried about it, but again, I don't have space in my brain for that, that this is something that could go for decades uninvestigated in full when there's so many victims in this. And this type of technology, the suite of things that they have, and the fact that they can do it subliminally, or they can do it in ways where it doesn't feel like it's coming from, like when they first did this to me in my house, I didn't know about them. I thought I had certain illnesses at certain times. They've repeated those same things to me multiple times and said, this is how you felt like that time when you left your job and you had your 2-week vacation, when you felt nauseous and you thought you had some sort of stomach or bacterial infection. This is what, they just did it to me last week. They were like, this is what we did to you. And a couple of weeks before that, they were like, this is kind of like what we did to you before you got, you went over to your new job. This is kind of what you felt like. Oh, and remember that vertigo that we gave you around that same period of time when you were at that multiple house party thing, where it's like in the daytime you go or in the evening and you walk from house to house and everyone socializes and drinks or whatever. And like at the second house, like I had vertigo. I've never passed out in my entire life. I literally almost passed out, or I kind of did pass out for like a second, and my fiance at the time had to hold me against the wall. And lo and behold, my sister's getting vertigo like last year or the year before that, and they're like, we caused that too. I don't know. I don't want to be a paranoid person or think the worst of things, but I absolutely know for a fact that they've messed with her life a little bit, unbeknownst to her, and with my dad as well. And I just absolutely cannot stress enough that I need you on Monday to get a solution where they are removed from me and or I am removed from them by putting me on a jet to get me to some other state or country. I don't have my passport, but I'll have my ID in the my ex-roommate at my last house. For my last house, he's bringing it by today with my paperwork for my dog so I can bring my dog on a plane. But I'm telling you, like, I need on Monday, I mean, I really needed this like a long time ago. I need you on Monday to get someone here and to get me the fuck out of here and to hopefully get them off of me. But like, I keep requesting that and like that doesn't happen. So at a minimum, I need to get the fuck out of here, and I need you guys to help me with that. There's absolutely no way whatsoever that you can look at all those victims and witnesses, some of whom who have gone on public record, and look at the list of ailments that I have and believe that I literally have all of those things or most of those things. All of a sudden, at age 41, without a history of mental illness or any major problems whatsoever. I mean, I'm HIV positive, but I've taken care of that most of my life. I'm not on medication now, but it takes years for that to develop into AIDS or anything like that. I was on meds recently, but since the move, I haven't been on them. But that's not a big concern because I will be back on them whenever this shit's over. But again, I need you to get me a solution on Monday. I don't want an email or a voicemail saying like, we're looking into it, or like that last email was bullshit. Like, and it didn't even make sense. When you're like, I'll be looking at these records or something like that. You should have already talked to them. And I believe you already did. That's sort of a positive paranoia. But if you didn't, like, what the fuck? I'm being physically and sexually assaulted every single day around the clock. And the most unbelievable thing about that is who would do this to someone. But again, think of online bullies or trolls. I'm sure you or fellow agents or just personally have dealt with that, or at least read about them in the news. You know that person, that there are evil people out there that do that. Whether or not they intend to cause the results that they cause. A lot of them don't care and do that happen. It's those same people with authority though, with the protection of the police and or government. No, not and or, but well, I guess I don't know if the government's involved. But I know the local law enforcement's involved, and I know that they did some things they shouldn't have done. And there's no way that was a random set that I randomly just suddenly got a criminal record during this nonsense. I never had a criminal record before this. and now I'm a fucking felon, and I had to plead to things I didn't do. And they were nice enough to drop some of the charges that were false charges, like the drugs that they planted on me, but I still had to cop to the DUI because I didn't want to spend like another 6 months or another year in jail waiting for my trial, which kept getting reset and reset, or my court date, which keeps getting reset and reset and reset, and you just sit there in jail, like doing nothing, while your life is being ruined. But again, I hope you've listened to this point. I'm sorry I've left you long voice messages. I wouldn't have to if you'd responded to this appropriately. I hate the fact that I'm insulting you, but again, I'm insulted by your response to this. I appreciated the fact that the FBI got involved with this, but now it's